Well, good afternoon and good evening to everyone. Turn on your cameras if you could. Welcome everyone to the AMA's Women in Leadership program. I hope you're all excited today. Shall we put on the slides or should we wait for some time for more people to join? Great. So thank you very much for taking time to join this exciting seminar on women in leadership today. Now we are facing drastic changes. I hope this will give us some insights about how we can go forward. So let's begin. Next slide. These are some of the things for housekeeping. You already know very well how we can be engaged, how we can connect with each other, and how we can fully participate to take the maximum advantage from this seminar. So put on your cameras on, stay focused, keep your questions, put it in the chat so that we can ask during the Q&A session at the end. And if possible, please keep your microphones mute so that we can hear the speakers. Thank you very much. Let's move on to next. This is the agenda for this afternoon or evening in your time, in your own time zone. I'm in Japan now, so it's around, what time is now? Like almost 4:30 in the evening. We have the welcoming remarks, and I will be introducing you to the panelists. And we have 10 minutes session from each panelist, and we'll have Q&A session after that, after the panelists speak. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So this is me, the moderator. My name is Katwal Koizumi. Let me introduce briefly who I am, and then I have also a co-moderator, Mr. Hemant, who will introduce himself later on. Very short introduction about myself. I hold a position of in a global human resources advisor at Quintegral, Japan. And Quintegral, as you know, is a member of the American Management Association. And we do lots of leadership training all over Asia, in Japan, and also, wherever you are in your country, Philippines, India, Malaysia, wherever you are. Okay? So for the last decade, I also hold the position of senior vice president at one of the mega bank of Japan. And for the last decade, I have been very passionate about this promoting women in leadership. The reason is that our world is changing, as you know. There are several issues that needs to be addressed. We have the ESG, environmental, social, and corporate governance issues. We have the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals from the UN that the organizations have to deal with. And to address these issues, I feel that we need more number of women in leadership position so that we can have a fresh perspective on these issues and how we can create a sustainable future for the future generation, sustainable world for the future generation. So I'm sure this seminar will give us inspiring ideas and insights so that we can take action at our own level to support the advancement of women in leadership. So let's enjoy this session. So then I would like to ask Hemant, who is a co-moderator, to introduce himself. Hemant.
Atwal San, hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to all the participants and the panelists from India, and good evening to all the participants and panelists from the other Asia Pac countries. My name is Hemant Pandey, and I take care of the business for Trinocate India. I hereby welcome all the three panelists from Philippines and India. and to all the participants from the different part of the countries, the APAC region. Thank you once again for joining in. I just want to make one request and urge to all the participants to please participate, ask questions, make this webinar more engaging and experiential. Thank you. Over to you, Katwal-san.
Thank you, Hemant. Now let me introduce the panelists. Thank you very much. Three of the panelists. Before that, I'm sorry, we have Yuzo Otani, who is the director of Trinochet Holdings Limited and the director of Quintegral Limited, to give us opening remarks. Mr. Yuzo.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yuzo Otani, director of Quintegral and Trinochet. I'm based in Tokyo, so joining from Japan from home, working from home. Thank you for joining this event, online event. Quintegral has been trying to host online free event on monthly basis starting this year, and it's nice to see many people joining from different countries. I think which is unique for Asian countries, because in my countries normally we do events. It's all Japanese people, so it's quite diversified audience, and it's interesting. Please allow me to quickly introduce who you are. Katwa-san also quickly introduced, but Quintegral is the company which provides leadership and management trainings and programs, and also courses including, of course, diversity and inclusion and women business, representing American Management Association in countries in APJ, Singapore, Malaysia, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Japan, and India. The topic of this event, women in leadership, is increasingly important topic in business world today, I believe. And I'm also personally keen to learn and get insights from the panelists who are active on the front line of corporate business world, and also learning and development field. One reason for me to be keen on this event is because unfortunately Japan ranks quite low on gender gap report from World Economic Forum, and simply wondering how it is in other countries. And I hope and believe that you could also bring back a lot from today's event. Yeah, so that's it from me, and I think we can move on. Now back to Katwa-san. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Otani-san. Thank you very much for your remarks. Thank you so much. Now let me introduce the panelists. We have three panelists here, so let me introduce Miss Doreen Cooper. She is, as you can see, she's the International Learning and Development Professional for Communications and Professional Skills, and she was nominated top 14 most influential Filipino woman on LinkedIn in 2021. We would like to hear her insights later on. And we have the second panelist here, Ms. Vajanti Naik. She's the Senior Vice President at Axis Bank, and she champions the diversity, equity, and inclusion there. She strongly believes that creating an inclusive culture builds a sustainable organizations, and we would like to hear from her later on her insights into how we can advance women in leadership. And the third panelist here is Ms. Tessa Huvintko. Sorry, I still can't pronounce that her surname, but sorry for that. She's the training consultant and facilitator for Quintegral Philippines, and for the last 30 years, she has designed and facilitated leadership programs at all cadres of the organization. So we would like to hear her perspective later on about how we can build women in business. Okay, so now let's begin. Next slide. I would like to call on Ms. Tessa Yuvinko to give us her thoughts. And can you move on to the next slide, please? We have these three questions prepared for her, and we would like to ask these difficult questions, these very difficult questions, and how she thinks about these three questions. What is a woman of quality for you? Right? That's a very difficult question. How do you
Hi.
how do you think women's leadership changed and impacted teams now? And the third one is important skills and knowledge for women to be in the leadership cadre. So all of you, while you're listening, please write down any questions you have in the chat so that during the Q&A later on, we can come back to those questions. Okay, so now with that, I would like to invite Ms. Tessa to give us some thoughts about on these three questions. Tessa.
Hi. Good afternoon. Good evening. Is there anyone in the morning zone? Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Cadwal, and it's an honor to be part of this event. So I'd like to start with your first question. Like, what is a woman of quality for you? You know, when I got the invite to this event to share my thoughts, no, on women in leadership, and I saw that first question: what is a woman of quality? So I started reflecting on the women of quality in my personal circle. I started myself, no, the significant women in my life. So what do I admire about them? Well, for one thing, my mother, who just celebrated her silver anniversary in heaven. That's one. And then I have my 101-year-old aunt, who is a contemplative nun at the Carmelite Monastery. And my 30-year-old daughter, who is a DJ, voice-over talent, a commercial model, and a TikTok influencer. So I would like to come up with a composite description of or description based on the qualities of these three women. My mother and my aunt have instilled in me the Christian faith. So for me, as a woman with a deep sense of spirituality, could always face and surmount life's adversities and still remain steadfast with her faith. There may be struggles along the way, but because of her faith in her creator, together with the optimal use of her God-given talents or God-given gifts, she could still emerge as a mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually healthy human being. So a woman of quality lives her life. For me, a woman of quality lives her life to the fullest. Not the YOLO type, the you only live once type of woman, but living her life meaningfully and purposefully. One of my favorite quotes is from Pablo Picasso, the artist, and he said that the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. So this woman of quality makes sure that she makes someone else's life better, to be of service to humanity. And third, finally, in this day and age, I would like to call it life 4.0. One's talents are put to good use with the help of technology. Her social media presence becomes a tool to help people become the better version of themselves, like being the better me today than yesterday. So, in other words, a woman of quality is a woman for others. Now, going to the second question, addressing that second question, how do you think women's leadership style changed and impacted the teams now? Well, the 21st century women leaders are more collaborative, creative, and compassionate. And because of these qualities, they have to do BEST in teams. So, what is BEST? They build or develop people's potentials. They engage their teams and involve them in problem solving and decision making process. They sustain the initiatives and efforts of their organization, and they transform their teams of followers into leaders. As an educator, it boils down to answer the third question, important skills and knowledge for women. As an educator, I'm an educator at heart and by profession. It boils down to the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. For me, those are the skills, the important skills for women today. You learn, you learn more skills, new skills, up your game, even if it's not your cup of tea. You never know when you would need a particular skill that you just learned, right? Relearn the skills that were taught to you by your parents and grandparents. These are life skills, actually. And unlearn those that hamper your personal and professional growth. In other words, be a lifelong learner. So, yeah, that sums up my answers to all those questions, Katwal.
Thank you very much, Tessa. Thank you so much. Very insightful. What I picked up, one or two things I would like to summarize here is the first one I really liked about the quality, about, woman of quality is finding your gift. You said to find your gift, right?
Yeah.
And the purpose is to give it away. What a beautiful thing, right?
I know.
That's really excellent. Right? Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
And number two, for the second question, I like collaboration. I think that is really good, collaboration. And then you also mentioned that the best, how do we transform ourselves, right?
Yes.
Through collaboration. Those are the, I think, keywords for second, from what I picked from you. And the third one, learn and relearn. Because nothing stays the same. We got to relearn everything, right? New skills.
Exactly.
Very good insights into this. So everybody listening to this, to Tessa, the great insights, please put your questions in the chat. Later on, we can ask her and deep dive into those three questions or any other questions that you have. Thank you very much, Tessa, for your insights.
Thank you.
We will come back to you later on for the Q&A.
Alrighty.
Now, let me move on to the next speaker, Miss Vaijayanti. Next, can you please go on to next speaker, Miss Vaijayanti Naik. And as I mentioned shortly, that she strongly believes that inclusive culture is the key to building a sustainable organization, right? And by the way, not only has she worked in, works for the Axis Bank, but she has also worked in several other big organizations like ICICI Group, BNP Paribas, and SDFC, and she has held leadership positions in these organizations. And we would like to hear your thoughts on, could you move on to the next slide? These three questions. What are the challenges for female leaders in business, and how can they overcome such challenges? I think we have lots of challenges. And number 2 and 3 questions are the same. How do you think women's leadership style changed and impacted teams now because of the COVID and so many things happening? And last but not the least, important skills and knowledge for women who would like to be in the leadership position and advance themselves in the organization. So, Ms. Naik, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Koizumi. I hope I pronounced your surname properly.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
I
did.
did, yeah. And I must tell you that, you really pronounced my name beautifully. And that doesn't even happen in my own country that frequently.
Thank you.
So thanks for that. And good afternoon, good evening. And if somebody is in the morning zone, good morning. Delighted to be here. And thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. I hope I can live up to all the words that you've spoken about me. So I will try to address all these questions. And I may not do it point wise because they're all pretty much interlinked. And because we're also talking about this whole new normal and, life has changed. I mean, I think none of us can really say that what was happening in 2019 and what's happening today, it's different. And we see that evolve in organizations in terms of people's expectations from business leaders. And it's not just women, it's men too. And so this whole aspect about inclusion, so I do want to touch upon at the end of the day, a sustainable culture is an inclusive culture, which means that I feel a sense of belongingness to the place. Now, to build that sense of belongingness, you have to work on multiple levers. And unless you do that, if you don't create a culture of belongingness, I think today people are pretty clear that, if it's going to be transaction and contract based, then I may as well move someplace else. And which is why I feel that if you don't create that inclusion, you're not going to build a sustainable culture, not a sustainable organization. But that apart, let's move back to some of the things that you're asking. And I think it was Mr. Otani who said that, in Japan, the workforce participation for women is low. I can only share with you some data and in fact, talk to you about one of the initiatives that we do, is that women's labor workforce participation in India is very low. It is approximately barely 20%. And, it did get impacted by COVID because we all know that COVID has had a disproportionate impact on women particularly, right? And some of these is structural and social. And we have to recognize that, you have to go to grassroots because it's about, changing the thinking orientation of not just women, but the men as well. You can't be talking to a echo chamber. So we have a program called the Access Women in Motion, where we actually reach out to academia, the world of academia, young students, both men and women students, where we say it's important for women to stay engaged, in economic activity, not just social entities. You have a role as a wife, mother, daughter, whatever, aunt, mother-in-law, whatever, but do stay engaged in the workforce. So that's why stay in motion is the Newton's first law of motion, right? And, we've covered 10,000 students. We just started about 5 months ago, and we have ambitious plans of taking it forward. But that's what it is, women in motion. So I'll link this up to some of the questions that you have asked, right? So what are the challenges for female leaders? So I think as you start climbing the ladder, okay, women do need to, some of the challenges that come naturally is to, go for visibility, being little more assertive and negotiating really well and being comfortable in their own skin, right? So maybe there is a particular leadership style and, at the risk of sounding little controversial, that most of the leadership styles that people emulate are all determined by men because they dominate in most of the leadership positions. So so there is a pressure. Shall I be myself or shall I be somebody else? Do I have to behave in a particular manner to get accepted? So these are some of the classic dilemmas that go around with women leaders. But I think, therefore, for women, they need to really build internal networks. Unless you go out, reach out to people, get more visible, and put up your hand and ask for, being put on big projects, take the lead. It's okay. People sit up and then take notice, right? Ask, at worst, what will happen? Somebody will say no. But you would have at least asked and something will move. So these are some also, I think it's partly mindset, it's partly skill set. But first you have to talk to the mind, and then after that you are ready for skill development. So, this is, so I feel, the get more visible, okay, build your internal networks, and don't try to be somebody you're not, so be yourself and be comfortable in your own skin, put out your point of view and raise your hand. So I think these are some of the things that women can do to overcome those challenges. And yes, sometimes you're the only woman in the room. It happens very frequently. And, that's okay. What will happen is if you're one woman in the C-suite, it'll create more women one level below, and you will have that wonderful effect that percolates. So even if it means you're the single person, it's okay, be there, right? And make your presence felt. So speak up. That's what I would say women need to do. Now, whether women's leadership style has changed and impacted teams now, okay. So, I think if I look at, when you say now, I'm assuming the whole COVID impacted world. So clearly, this world requires much more empathy. It needs compassion and it needs collaboration. And because people have undergone such a difficult time, personal time, people are realigning priorities, and women do tend to be naturally more collaborative, right? And I have seen, sometimes when women become what they are not. So if I'm by nature, I'm telling in disclosure, by nature a more collaborative person. If I'm suddenly asked to, emulate an alpha male, I'll fail in it, right? So I stick to what I do best. And of course, I pick up skills on the side, but leverage your strengths. So the women, so it's not also true that all women are very collaborative. I know some women who are extremely aggressive and, so they're different. I'm saying your leadership style as a woman has to, help you to navigate your business, your people, competition, marketplace, where you are today. So and some of the things that are being demanded, right? People want their managers to be supportive. People want their managers to understand, be empathetic, be collaborative. Those are women's natural styles. I think we should simply leverage it. Why give up on it? Coming to skills and knowledge for women, I think this is my pet theme that, we should learn. Of course, I loved, what Tessa said, learn, unlearn, and relearn. I will say that you got to be agile today. See, agile is not just a tech buzzword, but I think you have to adapt very quickly. So that adaptation to the current situation, women need to do. Specifically for women, I will say they should learn to negotiate better outcomes for themselves and become bigger allies for other women, right? And seek allies from the men, allyship from men. Because many times I think men also don't know what is it that, you really want. And, maybe sometimes with all the good intentions, they may not end up doing the things that really work. So for women, I will again say that assert yourself, raise your hand, ask, don't wait, to be asked. And the other myth is also that, my work will speak for itself. And I speak on, because I've worked in very, very large enterprises. Yes, work will speak for itself, but there is no harm in talking about it. Yeah. And, don't think it's manipulative. Women sometimes we put, ourselves in these little boxes. Okay, if I'm that good, then somebody will notice. Yeah, but do make an effort to get noticed. And there's nothing wrong because you have all the talent. And one of the things that we have seen is that, women wait to be 100% ready for a job to put up their hands, and men will go for it at 60-70% readiness. Maybe we should learn that too. It's okay. Organizations today are ready to look at not ripe for the picking kind of people. It's okay. Even, as long as you show the attitude, aptitude, you will get the job if you demonstrate that hunger. So all of this. But another thing that I have noticed, and simply because I've been around, and I'm sorry if I've exceeded my time, but I get so passionate about this subject, is I can't stop. So, earlier, like when I started out almost 30 years back, okay, women were okay with balance, right? So, and I know many friends and batchmates and all who have sometimes deliberately chosen a lower track just to manage and balance everything. I see young women in my current organization who are very demanding, and I like that. And they will come and say, ma'am, I didn't get my promotion. I didn't get what I wanted. So I'm looking out for better pastures. So something has changed. It's not remained the same, and it's all for the good. So women are learning, and maybe they should learn new tricks, and maybe they should unlearn some of the things that they may have accumulated over a period of time. So I don't know if I really answered all these questions, but be agile in life, adapt and be agile. That's what I want to leave you with.
Thank you very much, Ms. Naik. Wonderfully put. I'll just put a few things that you said, and I hope I caught that, in a nice way. I like that, the visibility thing. I think the difficult part is how do you make yourself visible in an organization, in a big organization? So one of the things that you mentioned really hit me is how do you become comfortable in your own skin? And we have a program in AMA, and for the last decade, we have been saying, what is your brand, your personal brand? What value you bring to the organization? That creates a great visibility, I think. So branding yourself, that's one of the key things I got from this, from yours. Other thing is, number 4, the second question I got is, I think women are really compassionate and more collaborative than men, I feel so. And I think with this COVID, I think that compassion, and we need, leaders who are very compassionate and who are very collaborative. I think that really works well. If you can put that forward, that itself should take you to another level of leadership. Last, the agile thing really hit. Learn and relearn was we learned from Tessa, but agile, being adaptive, being able to adjust to the circumstances and making allies, really very important. Thank you. These are really key points for how do you take yourself to the next level. How do you exercise leadership in an organization, anywhere you are? These are the insights we got from you. Any questions you have to Ms. Naik, please put it in your chat. Later on, we'll come back to those questions. Thank you very much, Ms. Naik, for now. And our next speaker is Ms. Doreen Cooper. And we will ask 3 questions to her. As I mentioned to her, I introduced a little bit earlier, she is as it is in the slide, an international learning and development professional, and has been nominated as the 14th most influential Filipino woman on LinkedIn 2021. I saw your homepage, really nice homepage you have.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would like to hear from you the 3 questions we have put there. Can you go to the next slide? And what is woman of quality for you, right? How do you think women's leadership style changed because it's COVID and impacted the teams in all the organizations? And anything on important skills and knowledge for women. So you have 10 minutes to talk about these three topics. You can focus on one, and you can give your ideas on any other 2, right? Well, you can answer all 3. So go ahead, Doran.
Sure, Gatwal. Thank you so much. Am I pronouncing your name correctly? It's Gatwal? Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'll start with the first question here, which is, what is a woman of quality for you? And I think that, I'll be honest, I don't think there's any simple way to answer this question. I think it's a very complex question in itself. Yet if I were to really reflect on this, I feel that a woman of quality is somebody who is able to positively impact others or other people and positively impact the situations that she finds herself in. So let me quickly just give you an example or to expound on this. I've worked with women whom I have found are extraordinary, like really, really impressive women. And I've had the privilege as well to have been born into a family of of women who are amazing and really strong as well. And I find that these women whom I think of when I think of women of quality, they are women who are able to positively inspire others. And also, regardless of whether they find themselves in challenging situations or circumstances, they are able to find the best in the situation, and they're able to find ways to work around the situation. And if I may say, like, how has this personally impacted me? I really feel that the women that I have in my family, the role models that I had in the workplace who also inspired me, I really feel that they have positively impacted my life in such a way that I am now able to be in that position where I can share my blessings with others, where I can, well, thrive in a line of work that I absolutely love. And just yesterday at Katwal, I received some really great feedback about work that I do as an international trainer. I mean, it was fantastic feedback, and it just made me feel that, hey, I'm in the right profession after all. And I also do a lot of volunteer work, and in my line of volunteer work, I help so many, and it takes so much out of me, I have to admit, and I don't get paid for it. But at the same time, when I see how I'm able to help increase the capacity and the confidence of the people that I work with, then I sense that in my own way, I am creating the positive impact in the lives of others and in the situations that we are in. And by the way, we just also received such fantastic feedback on the volunteer work that we do as a team. And I received feedback that from some of the leaders in the Philippines, that they are saying that they are very happy with the work that I do in this volunteer capacity. So I was also like, oh my gosh, this is so heartwarming, because again, you don't get paid for it, but at the same time, you put in so much. So I feel like we're on the right track in this area as well. Now, just quickly to the second one, how do you think women's leadership style changed and impacted teams now? In terms of the change, okay, maybe I'll get to that later, but one thing that I notice is women leaders, generally speaking, I feel that one key thing that I notice among women leaders is many women leaders have this ability to be empathetic. And maybe this goes back to also, being mothers and all. Well, at least a number of them are. Some aren't, which is of course perfectly fine as well. But I just find that it seems to be an innate ability or skill that women, or a lot of women leaders rather, have. Apart from that, it's adaptability. Being able to do that in their personal lives also can cross over as a skill to their professional lives. So I find that that's also such a wonderful characteristic that women leaders have. How do I think that it has changed? If anything, I feel that it has been amplified this pandemic. I just came from a workshop where I was teaching participants how to run virtual meetings. And one of the things that I was telling them was, you know what, when you do virtual meetings, you have to start by showing that you care for other people. You can't just jump into business. And I was really happy to share that, because that is something that is proven and tested, not just by myself, but also by other people who thrive in the industry that I'm part of. And last but not least, important skills and knowledge for women. One of the things that I also teach are how to empower yourself or equip yourself with knowledge and skills that can help you become more successful in life and career. I think that's my life mission, if anything. And I strongly believe that there are certain skills that, actually, there are so many skills that you can build on, but some of them include critical thinking. I find that critical thinking is really something very powerful as a foundational skill to many others. Being able to solve complex problems. There was an interview done at I can't remember the exact conference right now, but it's a large business conference, but the name just escapes me at the moment. And some of the top skills that business leaders say, which are important in their team members, include critical thinking, complex problem solving, and the third one is decision making. So that really just further emphasizes the importance and the need for these skills. I also want to emphasize the need for good communication skills. And right now, it's not just in-person communication skills, but also virtual communication skills. It's become a life skill as well. And adaptability, that's also something that is very, very important, especially as we've seen the world was turned upside down, figuratively speaking, when COVID hit last year. And it just showed us that nothing is set in stone. So many things can change. And it definitely affirms the saying that only, what is it? Change is the only constant thing in life. I think COVID definitely affirmed that for us. And so it's really important for us to be flexible and adaptable in different situations.
Thank you very much, Doreen, for underlying very key things for all these three questions. What I captured from you on these three questions, one is be inspiring. And that's very true. I think women are very inspiring. You can see everywhere. My mother was inspiring to me. My sisters were inspiring to me. And without them, I would not have been here. So we have, men are actually inspired by women, right? All over. Be inspiring. You are already there, right? So you just need to work on some of the things in an organization setting and inspire people. You can do that. We can do that. The second thing I learned from you is adjusting and adapting. We also talked that in the previous from the previous panels, like Ms. Naik and Tessa, and those are the skills that we need for everybody. And the skill sets, important critical thinking, complex problem solving, decision making. In AMA has done a research and says the most important skill for the 21st century are the 3 C's. The 3 C stands for critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. So those are the 3 skills, very important wherever you are, whether you're a woman or man, but for everybody, right? For everybody. So these are some of the skills. Now, thank you so much. Let's put a question to, if you have questions, write down in the chat, and we'll go for the Q&A now. Next slide. I think we'll move on to Q&A. We have, how much time do we have, Hemant? We have a lot of time, I think. So let me pose a question, and then any one of you can go ahead and answer. But if you would like to, all three of you would like to answer, that's also fine, okay? And I think we'll have more questions from the participants too. So my question to you, and listening to you is so exciting, coming from different perspectives. I would like to ask you, how do you motivate yourself on a daily basis? Motivation is very difficult, right? You got to be on your top of your feet. You got to be pushing yourself, and there are all the challenges there. And how do you do that? So proactively, anybody can say, "Oh, let me go first on that," and then we'll make this a chat, not just asking, but let's chat out here.
Yeah, Tessa raised the hand.
Let's put down this slide. Let's put down the slide, and we'll just come to the gallery. Okay, gallery view. Yeah. Now we can see everybody, right? Great. So how do you motivate yourself?
Hang on. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, that's the question I usually ask my participants whenever I would run a program on self-mastery, because it has something to do with the core values. So to answer that question, what motivates, what drives you to get up, right? It's actually the core values, my core values, my personal core values. So what is this? It's commitment, right? Commitment to do what you have to do for that particular day. So I remember there was a time like in the 90s when it was raining so hard in the Philippines, and I managed an event. So that was in a hotel in Manila, And I remember it was raining hard, it was so flooded, and the roads were not passable. But I had committed, it was my event. So I had to take that. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but we call it the pedicab. What is pedicab? It's like a tricycle, but it's not run by a motorcycle. It's run by a bicycle. So that was the only transportation that could go through the floods in my gown.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was commitment. Yeah, so I think that was a test for me. Like, yeah, it goes back to the core values.
Excellent. Yeah, I really believe that commitment drives you and it gets you where you want to go, right? That's the only thing. So let's hear from, thank you, Tessa, thank you very much. Let's hear from Ms. Naik and...
Yeah, okay. All right. So for me, I just love learning new things. So every day I feel ki, what's going to come to me, because, when you're in line HR, which is also part of my job, every single day is learning some new problem, some new challenge, and you learn. Like, I'm sitting in this workshop today, and I've myself made my notes, and I've learned something. So that makes my day. So if you stop learning, I feel you stop living, then what's there? So it's the need to keep doing something new, different, learning, gaining perspective. That's what makes me get out of the bed and go full steam ahead at whatever I do. That's been like that for me.
True. And me too. Like, I always feel, what can I learn? It's called, I think, the growth mindset. There's a whole book on that, growth mindset. What is one thing I can learn from this? And then that moves me forward, at least in a small way, right? So, excellent. Thank you so much. How about yourself, Doran?
Sure. Thank you very much, Katwal. For myself, I think that even on the days when I'm most tired or exhausted, one thing that really helps me is to focus on one thing at a time. So, just to go back, I really try that the first thing I do in the morning is to pray, is to meditate, because it just puts me in the right mindset that I feel can really sustain me throughout the day. And then after that, I focus on one thing at a time. Even if, for example, there are days when I have 3 workshops, it happens because, online, it usually lasts for maybe 1, 2, 3 hours. Even on those days, or even days when I have 4 workshops or other things that are a bit heavy, I focus on just one chunk of the task at a time. And while I'm there, I remain fully present. I give it my all. Once I'm done, okay, I move forward and focus on the next task. And then at the end of the day, I do a quick review of the things that happened. What went well? What can I do differently next time? I rest, and it starts all over again the following day.
Great. Yeah, that's like really important, because people say multitasking. I don't really believe on multitasking, because you can only focus on one thing at a time, right? You may have so many things on the plate, but only thing is you do one thing. If you multitask, you'll be, I think, stressed. So I do the same thing. I have, okay, 5 things to go, but this is my first agenda. Bang. Then I'm motivated, right? I'm motivated to do that, complete that, and move on to next. Excellent. Hemant, did you pick up any questions from the participants?
There are no. I would request participants to put across their question. In the meantime, I do have one question.
Go ahead.
This format, I would definitely like to ask to all the 3 panelists, or any one of them can answer, all we can answer. We are seeing that a lot of new generation, or new set of next generation of women who are just starting to work across the globe, not only in APAC or in India, but across the globe. So what advice would you like to give to the next generation of women who are just starting to work? One. The second part is, what would you like them to know more about leadership?
Okay. Very good. So it was not very audible. So let me rephrase the questions. What advice would you give to the next generation of women leaders? Right? That's number one, who are just starting to work. And the next question was, what would you like to let them know about leadership? Okay, advice to the young women who are just starting to work, and what would you like them to know about leadership?
Can I go on this? It's
Yeah,
my favorite
please.
topic.
Yes, Vajanti, please.
Okay, so okay, one thing, and it goes back to the axis women in motion. Stay in motion. Don't give up, right? Because there will be challenges. I mean, women do go through life cycle related challenges. That's the way sometimes our societies are structured. But stay engaged, keep doing something, relearn, learn new things, acquire new skills. So, don't just step on the side way, right? Sometimes you think I'm on the treadmill, what's going on? It doesn't matter. One day the tracks will clear. So, and secondly, be proud to be ambitious. So I can tell you something that, we picked up during these Women in Motion, and some of the young girl students would ask that, Vaijanti, why is it that the burden of balance is only on us? The word balance is always used when it comes to women. I said, yeah, and that's exactly what we are trying to do. And that's when we have boy students in the class, and many of them, the boys didn't realize that this is a battle women face and the language that they receive from their parents. So I think that keep your ambition kindled all the time. I think, and what ambition is not always boardroom, it's not always C-suite. Can be anything. You want to do your own startup. You may want to start your own boutique if fashion excites you. You may want to start off a salon. And in India, you have a lot of these, home chefs and small businesses. That's okay. So, but be ambitious, stay relevant, stay smart, and please be engaged. Remain a woman in motion.
Sure. Tessa, you did raise your hand, and would you like to also address this question?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I got distracted. What was the first question again, Hemant? I know the second question.
The first question was, what would you advise the next generation of women who are just starting to work?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I agree with Ms. Naik about learn the skills, right? And I mentioned this earlier that even if it's not your cup of tea, it's not according to your job description when you were hired, but you were assigned to do this and that, because I went through that, and I did not decline. I did not refuse. I accepted the responsibilities without thinking that, oh my gosh, why am I doing what I am doing? But then at the end of the day, after so many years, I found out that, oh, I learned this skill. Wait, here's my library of skills. Oops, pull out. And it came in handy. So yeah, I think that's one of the things that I would like to tell the young women who are new at work, that yeah, if you're given the opportunity, go for it. Go for that opportunity. And then for the second question about leadership, right? I think you should have the desire to be one. So I don't believe that leaders are born. Leaders are made, because you should have that desire to be one.
Correct. Thank you, Tessa, and thank you, Vajanti. We have one question from the audience. This is from Jane Tio. I hope I'm pronouncing it perfectly fine. The question goes to anyone of the panelists who can. How can companies support building capability of women leaders and grooming future women leaders? Anyone of the panelists, whether Doreen, Vajanti, or Tessa, or all the three can.
Sure, I can go.
Sure.
All right. So Jane, thank you very much for asking this question. And I think that it's honestly hard to Okay, it's from my end. It's a bit hard for me to give advice to companies right now because, of course, there are a lot of companies which are still reeling from the effects of the COVID pandemic. Having said that, I do appreciate that you, for example, personally are interested to see how companies can better support women leaders and grooming future women leaders. So, one thing that I can share here, for example, is I think it's important to continue to provide learning and growth opportunities to women leaders because even if companies or economies at times are still struggling, even when some people are taking on multiple hats because there were some layoffs that happened as a result of the pandemic, if we are able to help or support our women leaders and like show them that these are actually learning opportunities, these are growth opportunities for them as well, I think that's something that can really help motivate people even when they're really tired because they might be overworked or there might be other things which are also being a burden on them in their personal lives given the what is happening in the world right now. I think it's also important for companies to help remind women of their goals. I think it's important for leaders to sit down with future leaders and so if you're a manager, for example, it's important to sit down with your people, whether they're men or of other genders. It's just really important to touch base with your people, help them revisit their goals, help them envision their goals, or just remind them of what their goals are. So even when the going gets tough, we are still keeping our eyes in terms at what is really important. And I just wanted to go back to what I mentioned earlier on about growth and development. I think another thing that's really important there is also to continue to provide training opportunities for people. There's so many free resources out there. I mean, it's no longer a question of if you can attend a session or not, because right now, if you just really have to want to spend time and energy in learning. And I think it's important for companies to encourage their people to do that. There's so many free resources online. You have events like this one where you can learn from others. You can access so many vlogs and blogs. I mean, I myself have vlogs. I have blogs also. There's just so many like me who are putting content out there. So I think if we remind people that all the opportunities are out there, it's really just up to them to seize the opportunities and just to help guide them or bring their vision back to the goals that they have. I think those are already very important things that the companies can do, despite the challenges that so many companies and so many economies are experiencing right now.
Thank you very much. That was very excellent, well put there. We have, because of time, we have another question. So I'm going to shoot the question and any one of you can answer that. What's your view? This comes from, let me just say, from Lei Ling Ko-san, Lei Ling Ko. What's your view on the need for young and aspiring female future leaders to have access to sponsor and mentors, right, within the organization? How can they get sponsors and mentors within the organizations? And how can the sponsors and mentors help these future women leaders? Very good question. Very good question. So if you're doing that, let me ask Vijayant, next, would you please answer this question, how you're doing this in Axis Bank?
Yeah. So, okay. So I think, there are two parts, and I'm very mindful that we don't have too much time, is that organizations, see, there is a culture part to, increasing inclusion and diversity. And then there is the policy program part, right? So the policy program part does have things like mentorship, correct? And creating allyship, right? That encourages and grooms women. I think mentoring is super critical. And of course, organizations set up systems that we have that, of course, at a certain level and above, where we are, not, of course, it's not only for women, it's for everybody, but of course, with a special focus on women. Because that's where you need, right? I mean, women in leadership are going to then get more women at the lower levels, and that's going to build up a healthy pipeline. So that's one part. And I genuinely think that, you need sponsors, but you at the same time need good systems in place that facilitates that. Because many times I have seen, people are all committed. I haven't spoken to a single business leader in Axis Bank who says I'm not committed. They're all 120% committed. Now, if we don't put the systems at commitment, we'll find it difficult to get into action and accomplishment of goals. So I think that's where we have to work. And your question is very apt. Mentorship is more a system thing. Like we have to put it in place. Sponsorship, I think, is more the whole mindset and it's about the culture. But both need systems to drive change in an organization. So thank you. That was an excellent question. Made me think too. So like I said, I've learned something when I answered that question, or I've tried to answer a good question.
Yeah, very good. System and process is very important. Otherwise, we will do one time and forget things, right? So how do you put those processes and so that it works on its own? So that's very, very important. Thanks for that. Any other questions from the other participants? I think we are also on time. Hemant-san, what do you suggest?
Thank you very much. I think we do not have any more further questions.
Okay.
Also, we have passed 5 minutes post the session. I would like to thank all the three panelists, Doreen, Vaijayanti, as well as Essa, for coming and taking up your time and addressing on this webinar on women leadership. One last question has pop up. I hope we can take that. How should I handle stubborn woman leader? This is from Vinda Gonzalez. I think this is little pertinent. So if anyone of you can answer, and then probably I will request the audience to send the question queries mails to us, which we will be highlighting on the slides after this question. This is the last question. Yes, Doreen, I think you have raised your hand. So please go ahead.
This is a really interesting question, but I have to acknowledge that it's a reality. There really are stubborn women and stubborn women leaders out there whom we have to deal with. So I personally, my practice is I try to understand people first. So instead of seeing them as problems, I try to understand where they come from and what their motivations are, because I personally believe that behind every challenging individual, there is an individual who has needs, and there is an individual who has insecurities, and there is an individual who needs to feel secure and reassured. So before seeing, oh my gosh, like seeing this person as, my gosh, I'm about to pull my hair out. It's so challenging working with this person. I first try to understand where is this person coming from and what might be driving his or her, or in this case, her actions. Why does she behave this way? And from there, I think that could lead to also getting more insights on the person's strengths and playing towards that person's strengths. At the end of the day, I strongly believe that we're always in sales. We're always in sales. What do I mean by that? Doreen, you're talking about sales now. What are you talking about? I believe that at the end of the day, every single one of us are selling concepts and ideas every single day. So I think the challenge for us personally would be, if we're dealing with a stubborn woman leader, we need to see how we can approach this person in a way, we already talked about understanding, but also how can we sell ideas to this person? What will help her become more receptive? And what is it that she values? What are her strengths that I can help channel that stubbornness into something that is productive?
Thank you very much, Doreen. Excellent, well answered. I also believe that people come from either love or from help, So when it comes from help, sometimes they are very aggressive, but it's like, help me, please help me kind of thing. So if you respond to them, they will be, very kind of like they really appreciate it, right?
Yeah. So, Katwal, just to add to that, it's really a matter of connecting with that person, right? And again, it goes back to communication.
True.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So let's bring the slide back. I would like to thank you all, Vaijayanti, Doreen, and Tessa, for your time and great insights. Thank you for joining this seminar, and all the participants, thank you so much for joining this this, look, very insightful seminar. I think we have some for you to give us some feedback in the next page, right? Right. And then, yeah, this one. And thank you so much. I'm sure you picked up some of the insights and ideas. So let's hope that we can make some difference in the world we go into, in your own organizations or wherever we go into, and make the world a better place than we found it. A little better place because we heard each other today. And let's take some actions there. If we don't take actions, nothing is going to change. So thank you very much, and let's have a wonderful evening, and let's see that we change the world in our own way, right? In the whatever capacity we can. Thank you so much, Vajanti, Naik-san, Tessa-san, and Dorin-san. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts and insights.